My deep appreciation of theater history was instilled in me by Tom Empey, a college mentor to me and hundreds, if not thousands of others. While teaching Greek theater terms, he would grab the fabric of his slacks and say,
"You see these pants? Euripides, Eumenides,"
making light of content that could be considered rather dry and stuffy while still maintaining respect for the art, which is what I want to do with this podcast. For each episode, I invite a guest from the many paths my theater career has taken me down. I give my guests no idea what we'll be talking about, but they know we're going to find an outrageous story about theater history and perhaps get a better understanding about why we're still doing it after all these years. So, welcome to Euripides Eumenides, and I am your host, Aaron Odom.
Apocalypse, I said, why you want to show up now? Just when the heart of my life was getting good. I'll give you one more chance. Walk on out of the door, yeah. Get your ass to getting where the getting is good.
Good morrow or good e'en, Eumenidites, whichever it may be for you. This is Aaron Odom from Trident Theater bringing you another episode of Euripides Eumenides, a theater history podcast. Thanks for stopping by. I wish you all a hearty welcome and a seat by me in the wings as we get ready to allow this episode its moment in the limelight. If you're just joining the show, I've just taken a bit of a break from the show to focus on other creative pursuits, but I'm happy to be back for this, the second season of Euripides Eumenides. I don't want to linger too long on this part of the show, but I'll encourage all of you now to go follow the show on Instagram. That's where you'll get any and all updates forthcoming. If you were here for the last episode, you know I'm planning some paid extra content that I think you're really going to want to pursue, and it will all be related to theater and or theater history. Those plans will be announced just as soon as they're finalized. But, as always, I'd love to hear from you anyway, my listeners, on topics you'd love for me to cover, or just anything regarding theater history you'd like to chat about. Right now, the best way would be to send me a DM at the Euripides Eumenides Instagram feed, or at the Contact Us form at tridenttheater.com. Nothing will be dismissed, I promise you. Okay, let's get into the episode now. For this episode, I have one of the show's biggest fans and personal promoters back as a guest, my son, Ethan. He's appeared on the show several times and has quite a bit of prowess and insight into the world of theater and storytelling. We'll talk about that in a moment, but this is why I wanted to talk with him about this topic and see how stories from history have shaped his worldview and his audacious sense of humor. So, without further ado, here's episode 2 of season 2, Lion of the West and Other Plays about Davy Crockett. Welcome, Ethan, to the relaunch. I mean, I think what I have set up is this is somewhere in the beginning of season 2, as it were. But
yes, yeah. We're going by Invincible seasons.
Invincible seasons. Which I think, let's see, how many people do we have to rip in half? Oh, wait, you haven't seen it yet. Oh, gosh, spoilers.
I need to.
Spoilers. Okay.
I need it.
So I gotta say, I think one of my favorite, I think it was a Christmas present. It was a late Christmas present this year for you because I thought of it last minute. And it is one of your new favorite t-shirts that it highlights a job that you have found a particular aptitude in, and it reads 2 words in bright letters on a black background across the chest, and those are
Spotlight Operator.
Dude.
However, you took a little bit of an understatement to the highlighting.
Oh, what do you mean? The highlighting?
Highlighting.
Oh my god. Puns are not they might be welcome on this. But yeah, you got asked last year to come and run Spotlight for, I think your first one was James and the Giant Peach. So that's part of the junior shows that come here. It is a great opportunity for kids to get on stage and do fun stuff. And what is it? That's the show that's designed for like 6 to 14 or 15-year-olds, right? So the person who played the lead, you grew up knowing, and his dad's kind of a local artist here and has done a ton of stuff in town. So coming to see his kid it's like, well, I got to go see my kid. He's in the play and everything. He did a really great job. But the dad came to find me one of the nights I was just coming to pick you up. And he said, That guy right there, that kid knows Spotlight,
Yeah.
which was crazy. Which it's an incredible compliment because that guy has played in a ton of different concerts all over the place, and he knows good spotlighting and he knows bad spotlighting, and you were not the latter.
Really wish I was for the first one, but no.
Wait a minute, didn't you kind of perfect that a little bit with like learning sniper stuff in first person shooter games?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay.
I spent like 30 hours on VR.
Yep, in VR. That's pretty cool. But you moved from that into Mean Girls.
That one was a big leap.
That was a cool show. And
Well,
yeah, a lot of spotlight.
Mean Girls it's kind of just up in your face all of the time.
It was. But you on Mean Girls really started to get noticed. Now, your friend Paige, who does a lot of the lighting down there, says she doesn't really want to work with anybody else on spotlighting for stuff.
I sometimes color paper.
I hope she hears this. Anyway, so then now you're kind of backstage whiz kid. You got a lot of people who are asking to do stuff. You worked on my production of Misery.
That one.
Mind you, your father and director is sitting right in front of you.
I understand this. It was a long time for me to understand what I needed to do. I mean, also, I came off of, like, second quarter of school, which is, like...
Oh, yeah.
That one was one of my least favorites, but also my most favorites, because I got to do woodworking.
Yeah, there you go. And I have my little Magneto plaque over here,
Yeah,
laser
I can see
engraved.
it from here.
Thank you. It's pretty awesome. But yeah, you're getting a handle for this, and you're getting to understand shows, why shows are written, how shows are written. Sometimes, like... We've gone to see a couple things, I'm not going to name names, that we've looked at, and you and I have been able to have really meaningful conversations afterwards about, did we think this was an effective show? And as a 14-year-old, I think that's pretty cool that you can latch onto that and go, there was just something funky about the writing here. There was something about how the story was told through visual storytelling that made it a little more interesting than the actual, the acting storytelling. So I think that's very, very cool. What do you think about that? Do you realize that you have kind of a prowess in that?
No.
This is making for a fascinating interview right now.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just going to go ahead and use that and launch right into the topic of conversation today. Now, I gave you an option. I can't remember at this point what the other option was at this point, but I said, would you like to talk about a figure from history that has something to do with being represented on stage? And you're like, yeah, that sounds good. So,
I mean, it also came after Abe Lincoln's death in history. So.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
We're not talking about that.
No, not in this episode. We've already done it in a couple.
Well, gosh darn it. I missed it.
Actually, I took a tour of DC like maybe a year before you were born, passed right by Ford's Theater.
Well.
And I actually found out since then it has collapsed several times.
True story. And I thought the Seattle fire was bad.
Bad. Chicago, Ford's Theater. It's basically
Chicago
a tinderbox.
literally burnt down in a day.
So I'm going to start this off with a question. Put your thinker on this one. Who is an incredibly popular figure from history who you think probably deserves to have the story of their life adapted for performance?
Abe Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln. Okay, why? I mean, we've already heard about how he was a vampire hunter.
Shut up.
I mean, he did come back and help Bill and Ted give their history report.
Stop.
And created the greatest band ever.
That's media. Media lies.
But okay, so Abe Lincoln, what about that? I mean, was that movie that was really popular about, I don't know, several years ago.
I mean, like, I didn't really think much of Abe Lincoln before this year because, like, I never really thought about it that deep, and I didn't really know all of the backstory of what was happening during that time.
Yeah, it was contentious.
But a civil war and him completely just telling the Confederates just no.
Yeah.
Like, and also, like, how he was apparently, quote, unattractive, and, and kind of, quote, ugly.
Yeah, okay. Tall, slender man.
Blue eyes.
Can we do the
beard,
chin
ring.
beard? Are you married to it? Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I also heard that the reason he was such a popular orator, a public speaker, was not because he had this deep booming voice, because at the time that he was alive, there was no electronic amplification.
he was a loudspeaker.
He was a loudspeaker, and he had a high pitched, squeaky voice, which in large settings at that time sails over the crowd so everybody could hear him.
Huh.
Score! And 7 years ago!
Shut.
Forefathers! God.
Gingerbread man.
President Gingy. Okay. Well, unfortunately, we're not going to be talking about Abe Lincoln today, but that's a great idea because it's one of those stories that it's like he's on the penny, he's on the $5 bill, he's got this monument, he was responsible for emancipation, all this stuff that
The emancipation is more important than you would ever believe.
Oh my gosh! Well, yeah, I'm not downplaying that at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you talk about a person's life, they say never meet your heroes.
Because they're usually villains.
Well, in some cases, like they're not altogether wonderful people. Okay.
Oh no.
So we're going to talk about a figure here, but to start about it, we have to visit a certain place that you've been to a few times. In 1955, Disneyland theme park opened in Anaheim, California on July 17th.
Oh no.
At that time, the park was split into 4 basic sections or concepts, and they've added others since then. The 4 basic sections or concepts were Tomorrowland, Adventureland, Fantasyland, and Frontierland.
Could I visit Fantasyland?
Yes, right now.
I'm joking.
Tripping the Light Fantastic. Okay.
Nah, I'm skipping the D&D road.
Oh no, Disney Fantasyland is nowhere.
God. Every time.
I mean, wouldn't that be amazing
to
to ride the Alice in Wonderland ride, and they're like, okay, D20, roll for initiative, and you're gonna fight the caterpillar.
I rolled a 1.
Okay, so the caterpillar blew smoke all over you, and you are now incapacitated.
Incapacitated? As in,
You're prone.
I was about to explain it.
We'll let people enjoy the game on their own.
gosh,
Okay.
darn it.
So, now each area of the park was meant to champion and inspire imagination, particularly youthful imagination regarding the innovative, charming, or heroic aspects of each concept. Things a child could look up to or aspire to be. So let's run over some of the rides and stuff that are there today. So Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland was all about space exploration and technological achievement.
That's a ride?
Well, the rides are like Space Mountain.
Okay.
Autopia,
I
that car one that drives around the track and everything.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters.
I loved that one.
Technological achievement.
Yes, actually. Guys, go to that now. I am speaking to you, the audience, for the first time.
I think you and I rode that and blasted a bunch of aliens.
Oh,
That was really fun.
I easily got the final
You
score.
did. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
here's
because
this
I'm
4-year-old sitting next to me. He's like, Dad, step aside.
Oh God, I am like the best at those. This is why I always want to go to an arcade
Yeah?
to see if they have like a aiming thing.
Okay, Space Invaders. Yep. All right. Awesome. Okay. So next area of the park, Adventureland. So this was about exploration of exotic and dangerous locations, particularly those featured in Disney documentaries like Islands and Jungles.
Well, they got the space part, but they didn't get Adventure Time.
Now, hold on. Now, 1955, Ethan.
I'm
All right.
joking.
So today, the rides that represent Adventureland are like the Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, that
Okay.
one's always my favorite because the one part about the elephant. So it's just
Yeah, tell the joke.
So the safari explorer person tells you elephants have some of the greatest memory. I wish I had that kind of memory. So elephants have the greatest memory. I wish I had that great memory.
Yeah. Okay. So where was I? Oh yeah, elephants have.
They do that 3 times and then they quit. 3 times is the joke.
Yeah.
Thank you, Looney Tunes.
Okay. So lost my train of thought. Okay. So other rides in Adventureland are like the Tiki Room.
I do not remember that.
It has all the little puppets and
oh yeah, the
Dole Whip. Remember that like whipped dessert made out of pineapple?
Not particularly.
And the Indiana Jones Adventure.
That one
slaps. All right. Fantasyland, as you hinted to earlier, this is basically themed completely on Disney's animated feature film. So, the rides and attractions are all the classic Disney rides. Like, okay, so you've got Sleeping Beauty's castle. The Matterhorn is part of that.
It's like Itchy and Scratchy all over again.
It's not. God. But it's like, it's like kids flying over London as Peter Pan. Or, you know what my favorite one of those is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Who the heck is Mr. Toad?
Yeah, you might not remember this. He's riding around with all other sophisticated animals, but it's about a man at the turn of the century, Mr. Toad, finding vehicles really fun, and he gets in trouble with vehicles and stuff like that, and riding all over dangerously. The end of that ride, Ethan, like all of them are scenes right out of the storybooks. You go to Snow White and it's like, she finds the cottage and she meets the dwarves and you hear, hi ho, all that crap. I mean, so all of the Disneyland rides, they do that. And then you ride Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and you get to the end and he I can't remember if in the story he has a fever dream or not, but Ethan, in that ride, you legitimately go to hell. The last room of the whole thing is hell, and it's about 20 degrees hotter than everything else, and there's little puppets of devils bouncing up and down, and there's steam shooting out, and there's this judge that looks like Satan, and he's pointing you in a direction, and then you just pop out into Disneyland again. I mean, it's so dark. It's so dark. I'm glad you don't remember that.
I mean, it should be imagined as dark because... I mean, that's the core of our planet, so...
Yes. All right. And then finally we come to Frontierland, which is centered on westward expansion of the 19th century, discovery of old and other precious minerals and the early mining operations dedicated to their extraction, and the perceived heroism of the rugged pioneers of the frontier. Rides and attractions in Frontierland today are like the Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Tom Sawyer's Pirate Island. I don't think you ever went on that because you actually have to go across the water near the French Quarter where Pirates is. And and you have to go across it. And there's Tom Sawyer's Pirate Island and the riverboat cruise. You probably saw the big riverboat with the big wheel in the back.
I actually rode that when I was
you did?
with my,
the last time?
Mom.
Oh, right on. And Davy Crockett's Explorer canoes, which hold up to 20 guests and each get to paddle to help power the boat.
Davy Crockett?
You don't know Davy Crockett?
I don't really remember, but the name sounds familiar. I don't know his story.
All right. Obviously, other lands have grown into the park, but the original 4 were basically the product of Walt Disney's view of how to harbor and foster several different types of imagination. When the park opened in 1955, Frontierland was utterly perfect. And in some cases, relatively unexpected, even though given like the ubiquity of Westerns at the time. The years between 1940 and 1960 are often referred to as the golden age of Westerns.
Thanks, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, well, he was later in all of that.
What?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was like the birthplace of all Westerns.
So you didn't go to this, but several years ago I got to host they do the Western Film Fest here in our hometown of Sheridan, Wyoming, every January.
Yeah, I've not seen a Western to this day. Oh my God! I mean, I've seen Star Wars, so it technically counts.
Space Western. Yeah, Han Solo is pretty much a cowboy.
No, like the story is a Western. You cannot tell me otherwise.
It's a space opera, but okay. Now, it wasn't just like the idea of heroic cowboys and dastardly outlaws that captured the heart of America at the time, okay? It wasn't just that. Like I said, when I described Frontierland, after World War II, popular culture really seized onto the idea of looking back at American heroes from the past who made us this great and robust nation of people who emerged victorious from World War II.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially figures from the 19th century, the 1800s.
That's wrong.
I don't
That's
know.
off by like 100 years.
But I mean, you know, you're looking back and going, these are the people that made us great today in the 1940s.
Technically, George Washington already did this, so...
Kinda, yeah. But his legend carried on. Any kind of achievement that gained us a little more of our current country, there we could find heroes. So with that in mind, you have any idea who we might be talking about? Yet? No? Okay. I mentioned him earlier in a conjunction with a ride that's still in Disneyland's Frontierland.
Could we play a game of Guess Who?
Davy Crockett.
Oh, God.
Do you know anything about Davy Crockett?
Who is this person?
Who is Davy Crockett?
I'm sorry.
Look, I'm laughing because, honestly, I'm going to tell you why. Several generations removed, that's really funny. That's really funny. And people who I have a wide range of listeners, and there are people right now who are like turning it up going, Davy Crockett? He doesn't know who Davy Crockett is.
I'm sorry, fans.
He's 14. It's fine. Okay. Here's the thing. I tried to think of somebody who embodied the spirit of heroism that Davy Crockett did in 1955 when Disneyland opened. But the only comparison I can make right now is to fictional characters. I mean, there's no real person today who can compare to the amount of pop culture omnipresence and respect that Davy Crockett had in the 1950s and 60s. They're all fictional characters. Like, who do kids dress up as for Halloween?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Easiest.
Easy. Superman. Batman.
It's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man specifically, and the kids have no idea about it.
I have no idea, but it's still a Spider-Man. It's still a version of Spider-Man.
It's still a version of Spider-Man.
Okay.
They're not as cool as Miles, even if they think they are.
Okay, but why would a kid want to dress up as that?
Because they think better of themselves.
They think better of themselves. That person represents something bigger than them and like an idea they want to aspire to, right?
I have a couple quotes on the mind.
Bring it on.
I'm going to make so many people mad right here.
Don't worry, I hardly get hate mail.
Yet.
And that will be
So
I will have received my ticket into pop culture zeitgeist when I get hate mail. All
The
right.
first thing that I think came up to mind, with great power comes great responsibility.
Spider-Man's like leading maxim from
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben, right? But that's still something that people are like, yeah, I get it. So if there is this responsibility thrust upon me, I've got to treat it well.
However,
right?
people don't treat it well.
Some don't.
Because we're greedy.
That's okay. All right.
Humans are not made to be perfect.
Now, first of all, while he wasn't necessarily a Disney property, Davy Crockett was an actual historical figure. Okay? He became a household name in America after being featured rather heroically in a few Disney films and then an incredibly popular Disney TV miniseries that had one of the most memorable theme songs ever. I'm sure you have not heard of it, and I'm sure I have fans singing it right now.
Transformer.
G.I. Joe!
Oh,
But let me see. It kind of went, Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier. Ever heard that?
no.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to play it for you later.
If you do, I'm gonna cover my ears.
I don't care. Don't introduce me to things that were popular or cool at another time.
I mean, if it was 1950s, that's like almost another 100
Oh
years.
my God. Wait till you hear about this.
Oh,
Wait till you
God.
hear about this.
I'm not excited for when people finally figure out that 2016 music is actually kind of slapping.
All right.
And they're just, back in my day.
That's right. That's right. There was this woman by the name of Lady Gaga.
Lady Gaga is back, baby.
I know, man. That's pretty awesome.
Abracadabra is all you need.
Now, played by ruggedly handsome actor Fess Parker, Davy Crockett's wardrobe was soon sported by children all over the country who aspired to be like their favorite hero. Buckskin shirts with leather fringes, those long leather straps that hang off of like the seam that goes across the middle of the chest and down the sleeves, right?
Wasn't that like a traditional Native American thing?
Probably. Buckskin
we're
shirts.
Americans,
Yep.
so
Give me that. Buckskin shirts with leather fringes and fur caps became almost daily attire for an entire generation of kids. Now, we just mentioned it, like a fictional character you can see attire who's like people wear it on a regular basis. Like you'll see kids with a Batman symbol on their t-shirt or Superman, the Superman shield. They might have a Spider-Man hoodie or something. You've got Deadpool stuff.
I have Deadpool stuff because Deadpool is better than the rest of the superheroes.
But you don't wear his mask.
I don't wear his mask because I don't want to look stupid.
Okay, so let me describe these fur caps to you. Now, I'm not using the actual term, which is coonskin caps, because and I'm like, that's a little too close to. So let's just refer to them as fur caps. But in the early days of making these caps, they were first made out of women's discarded fur coats. So they'd cut like just a little thing that would sit on the crown of a kid's head, and then they would like sew a fake raccoon tail at the back of it, so the raccoon tail would hang down the back of the neck. So you've seen these, right?
So basically, they're just $2 worth of worthless nothing.
And sold for like 10. Yeah. Okay.
It's almost like the beaver skin caps.
Yep.
Like in the start of the expansion of America.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. How many beaver genocide? Okay. That's
Canada,
all I can say.
Watch out.
Yeah. Watch. You're going to have plenty of trees from now on.
Oh, no. The maple syrup is gone.
But then, after the women's discarded fur coats couldn't keep up with the demand was so great that faux fur was manufactured to meet the expectations of consumers, which just drove prices of materials skyward.
So basically just AstroTurf.
Yeah, it was head AstroTurf. Correct. Demand became so great that it was not uncommon to see adults soliciting children on playgrounds, offering large sums of money for the caps they all sported on their heads.
Hey, kid, you want a cap?
I want your cap. I'll give you anything.
Kid, you want my cap?
No, they were asking for the caps. They're like, I need them. I need it.
All it takes is a little money. If you're good at something, don't do it for free.
Okay, now here's something funny. The irony is that Davy Crockett most likely never wore the fur cap like the ones Fess Parker did on TV and the movies.
He was probably too early then. By probably 50 years.
I'll explain where this came from later. In fact, it's pretty surprising how little we actually know about Crockett's life if we had just popular media to inform us on the events of Davy Crockett's life.
So when was Davy Crockett?
Okay, I'll get into it here. All right. Now, I don't really want to give a huge bio on his life, but he was alive. I think he was born in 1778.
That's close to where I was thinking.
Yeah, and died around 1836, I think.
Because that's when Buccaneers were still a thing.
Okay. So, like I said, I don't want to give a huge bio on his life. I'll give a little bit because what we're talking about today are some of the more important times that Crockett was characterized on stage and what putting him on stage meant at the time. Uh-oh. Okay. So here's a little bit of a bio of Davy Crockett from a Life magazine article I read in 1955, or from 1955. I didn't read it then.
Yeah, you're that.
I got in the DeLorean. Son of a Tennessee tavern keeper, the real-life Davy Crockett ran away from home at 13 and later served as a scout under Andrew Jackson in the Creek Indian War.
Oh, no.
He claimed he shot about 105 bears in 9 months and grew up as a homespun Hercules who was also articulate.
That was actually not true. He had around 15, actually.
15 bears?
Yeah.
You know that for a fact?
Not for a fact.
Okay.
Well, it's around there.
Okay. We're going to come back to that.
He's a liar. Okay?
He's a liar. Interesting.
I learned this.
Okay.
I learned about him and Andrew Jackson having a good old time.
Ooh, good. Okay, so you will have some input on this. All right, so
I mean, I know a lot about. I know a lot more about Andrew Jackson
Okay.
than this Davy Crockett.
then there's
let's
Davy
say.
Crockett. All right, continuing this quote. Settling down, Crockett became a colonel in the local militia and was made a justice of the peace, ran for Congress, and was elected. In 1836, Colonel Crockett was attracted quite naturally by the Texas movement for independence, hightailed it to the Alamo, where he died in its defense.
Ooh, I did not like that.
Yeah.
Now, the Alamo was bad.
It was bad. So, okay,
I'm sorry, Mexico. We just need this land.
It's ours now. And look at what we've done with it.
Oh, no. Welcome to the Gulf of America, people.
They're putting litter boxes in the classrooms.
Oh, my God.
Nope. Nope. All right, Davy Crockett, then, has really become known for a few things. His hunting, his ability to survive on the land which involved being friendly with native peoples, and his heroism at the Alamo. Okay? But it's going to be those first few things that we'll focus on in this episode, because according to one article I read, Crockett may very well have been, quote, the first American to make a living portraying his own fanciful image. He toured. He toured as himself.
So that
Just
was
being like,
even before
"Look at me!"
the first presidential campaign.
Oh, no. This is in the 1830s.
No, like
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Because that happened in like 1850.
Right, because they couldn't really do that, right?
They couldn't really do that.
Uh-huh.
But some president, I don't really remember his name.
Just
like,
decided, nah, we can do that.
yeah, I'm just gonna tour their country.
I'm just going to run around and tell people I'm the best.
Make America great again.
I don't know what you're talking about. So I do want to focus on Crockett's relationship with indigenous peoples for just a moment, because it does have a bit of a backstory. Okay.
All right.
In the Disney TV shows and movies, Crockett was generally shown to have a good working relationship with his native neighbors, as he didn't really want to disrupt their lives at all, but rather work with them in peace.
I highly doubt that.
Now, hold on. The real story is somewhat different, but not entirely. First of all, his grandparents had been killed in a native attack, most likely as a response to their land just being simply overtaken by white settlers, right?
So it's like the boy who got raised by wolves or something.
Not really. I mean, he was still raised by his parents. It was his grandparents who died because westward expansion. Natives are like, hey, I don't like this, and ended up attacking the village. And yeah.
They're both some backstory.
So like I said, I don't think that put too much hatred in his heart. It's just mainly a fact of his life. But remember how I said he joined a local militia? This happened in his adult years, okay? When warriors of the Creek tribe launched an attack on Fort Mims in the neighboring state of Alabama in 1813. Now, by this time, Crockett was in his late 20s and had already made something of a name for himself as an outdoorsman. But that time was cut short, as the Fort Mims attack riled up a lot of people in the area to seek revenge. So Crockett joined the militia, and under orders from then General Andrew Jackson, Crockett included himself in there, right?
Crockett did the Crockett.
He went out, Crockett didn't really enjoy his time there. On one occasion, Crockett noted about a particular raid on a native encampment. Quote, "We now shot them like dogs and then set the house on fire and burned it up with the 46 warriors in it." There's also a story about how after that raid and the fire went out, his men went and looked in the cabin where they had all been, and they found a whole bunch of potatoes in a pantry under the house.
It's an Irish house.
Davy Crockett did not want to eat any of those potatoes because they had basically been baked in the human oil of the natives that they killed. He's like,
I mean, potatoes are one thing. Cannibalism is another.
Yeah, baked in human fat. That's like, ugh.
I mean, does it taste good?
Yeah, but all of this, pardon the pun, put a pretty bad taste in Davy Crockett's mouth.
Tastes like chicken.
Oh, God. By the end of the mission to avenge Fort Mims, it's estimated that over 200 men, women, and children of the Creek and other tribes were killed.
Of course, it's the women and children.
Oh, well, why not? Get back at them, right?
No.
Shame on you, America. Okay. Now, Crockett served for a few more years during Jackson's military leadership, still in the suppression of native peoples, but saw very little military action comparatively, And I love that this is a thing you could have done. Eventually paid another young man to fulfill the rest of his service starting in 1815.
Well, that just defeats the point.
Tell you what, I don't want to do this anymore, but I got a term. You want to do it? Yeah, sure.
It's like
Here's $50. Go fight for me.
Oh, and this is even out. Well, this is like kind of during the start of the slavery stuff.
Well, slavery had been going on. It had been going on. And yes, I read something somewhere that even though he was opposed to it, Crockett probably owned some slaves at some time.
I mean, so did George Washington, and we don't look at George Washington with hateful eyes.
No? Okay. The suppression of the natives may have been why Crockett opposed Jackson so much during Jackson's presidency. Crockett ran for Congress several times and was eventually elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1824. I guess during his campaigns, he was such an interesting speaker. Not like his speeches were really good, but they were very folksy and very, common people could really get behind him because they're like, he speaks just like me. I get it.
Oh, he's Southerner.
Oh, he is. He's from Tennessee.
So he speaks like that.
Jeez. Okay. I
Cut
can
out.
feel my Tennessee listenership drop.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Now, I guess during one of his campaigns, he memorized the speech of his opponent. And so when his opponent would speak in a debate, he would just deliver the exact same speech, but better. And so people were like, that's my kind of guy. And got him elected. Yeah.
Biggest plot twist of the century right here.
Yeah,
$5.
Hey, want to see me say exactly what the last guy did? Okie doke.
Where's my crown?
Yeah. So while in office, Crockett mainly came to be known for completely defying Jackson's Indian Removal Act of 1830. Okay?
Yeah, that was bad.
Oh, it was bad. And from what I read, the stories about Crockett being friendly with natives, it was mostly true, but mainly as a means of peaceful commerce in the wilds. It's like, I'm not really, trying to step on your toes. I'm just living off the land like you folks are. That's kind of.
He steps on their toes.
he didn't really.
I mean, he stubbed some of his toes.
Well, maybe. But I mean, it's not so much the way it was portrayed in TV and film where he came in and bowed and said, I'm not even going to say them because they're terribly racist. The things that they would say that were like peaceful greetings and things.
Oh God, there's so many Looney Tunes cutouts about that.
I know. You can't even watch Peter Pan anymore without having a disclaimer on it. It's like, this was written at a time when we thought we could say some of this stuff.
You can't even watch Aladdin like that.
Right? Not anymore.
Doesn't even make sense.
No.
What's offensive in? I mean, the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But after that, it's fine.
Okay, now coming back to the natives. When their livelihood was threatened by Jackson's Indian Removal Act, Crockett spoke vehemently in Congress against the proposed legislation. He fought it hardcore. And this was not a very popular view in the South at the time. And when it came to a vote in 1830, Crockett was the sole legislator from Tennessee who voted against the act. 2 senators, a whole bunch of representatives. He was the only one that said no.
That was a real coin flip.
That was not for him, no, but I think everybody else, from what I read, most citizens of Tennessee at the time were just like, yeah, we don't want them around. And they really tried hard to get the natives off of the ground because, well, we got
we don't like
and tobacco to grow.
We don't like anybody but English settlers, okay?
It was a real sentiment. Jackson himself honestly was like, well, the natives are going to die out someday, and the natural order of things is that the Europeans just come in and take things.
Why do you think I hate the British now?
Okay.
So they settled America
cool, there went my
because
British
they were
followers.
just greedy for land.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then they made us worse.
I do have people in Britain I expect to be on the show at some point again, but
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll anyway.
I'll send hate mail later.
Okay. You know, I'm not sure if he had the goal to do this when he sat down to record this episode, but Ethan sure seems to be poking the metaphorical bear of my listeners' tolerance. Perhaps he can take down 105 in a year, just like the hero of our story. But in all honesty, the kid has what seems to be a pretty sharp acumen for history and how it's told throughout the generations, and what might be left out or told in a way that isn't entirely truthful, and the reasons behind them. So, let's see what he can find as we get closer to the end of the story. Here's my son Ethan again, and the rest of today's episode, Lion of the West and Other Plays About Davy Crockett. So, he lost his seat in 1831. He won it back again in 1833, but lost it again in 1835. And it's widely thought that his opposition to the Indian Removal Act was the final nail in his political coffin. Because the people he was representing wanted it to pass.
Yeah, I think that's a pass for me.
Yeah. Okay. So you remember some of the fallout from the passage of that act. Trail of Tears sound familiar?
No.
Yeah, that's, 60,000 native people from Georgia were then moved to the proclaimed Indian Territory in the West.
Which it was not.
It was not. No.
It was not at all. The people in Georgia were pissed.
Yeah. Here's something funny about that. When they finally made it, I understand that some tribes went and purposefully found the land that they knew no white person would be able to cultivate, like badlands. They're just like, we're going to settle here because we know we can do stuff with it, and nobody will want to come here and try to take it.
Exactly.
Like,
that's the strategy.
Good
you
move.
take other people's stuff that they don't want. It's not stealing if they don't want it.
They don't want it. From there, we know that Davy Crockett saw great promise in the fight for the independence of the Texas Territory, went to join up. We know he died at the Battle of Alamo in 1836, whether in the fight or in a Mexican prison camp in the following weeks.
He like in the movies I've watched, because I've seen like 3 at this point. All in history class. Thanks for wasting my time.
Wow.
But
and now Ethan's high school teachers are going, oh, can't wait to have that kid in my class.
If they listen to this podcast, which I
wow. Thanks.
It's the high school, okay?
Anyway, so how was he portrayed in the movies you saw?
So he was portrayed to be kind of bold when the Spanish people fired in like an explosive bomb. The first one didn't go off. He just grabbed it, put it back in the cannon, and shot it back. It's like that Looney Tunes.
How funny is that? That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah, attaboy, cat. And it gets right in the cannon, shoots it right back.
Nah, he grabs a baseball.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and hits a baseball bat. Yeah. In any case, his fight at the Alamo was the last time he took up arms as a soldier. But by then, like you're saying, his legend started to grow. So whether or not he actually caught an explosive charge and fired it back in a cannon, stories like that started to become very popular about Davy Crockett. So during his last years in politics, he didn't so much participate in legislative sessions as much, but was working on his autobiography.
What better place to do it than that?
Yeah, because somebody came to him and they went, hey, your life story would sell a lot of books. And he went, sounds good. And while in office, would travel to promote his book. And plus, after he died at the Alamo, a series of annual almanacs were published, basically known as the Davy Crockett Almanacs, which published much of Davy's journals and thoughts, including a famous quote, which many now attribute to him, quote, be sure you're right, then go ahead.
Well, I don't know my right from my left, so that's going to be pretty hard.
Be sure you're left.
Which one makes an L again?
So we've been talking about 40 minutes here. I'm sure you're wondering what this all has to do with theater.
Thanks for the 3 history lessons.
Yeah, okay. Remember how we said his legend was growing throughout his adult years while he was alive? A lot of people were charmed by the perceived ruggedness of Crockett's legend, and most of which wasn't far with the truth, but there were others who saw a lot of his tales as somewhat far-fetched. Now, you even said it earlier. I'm going to take it back to the song. There is a lyric in the song that says, "Killed a bar when he was 3." So he killed a bear when he was 3.
No.
No way.
No.
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 I mean, your brother is talking to me this afternoon about that current discussion amongst dudes of, if you took 100 men against a gorilla, who would win?
A good doga.
Yeah, I'm good. That's pretty much that conversation.
Throwers.
Okay,
Thanks.
killed 100 bears in a year. 105 bears in a year. You think no? Okay, it's possible.
It's possible with 90 men.
Yeah, but not probable.
Not probable.
I mean, even the best hunters.
Even the best hunters can't do that now.
Now, I looked it up just for this episode. In the state of Wyoming, where we currently are, we have huge mountain ranges that go right down the middle of the state. You know how many black bears are estimated in this state total?
How many?
650. Now, I
wonder why the bison are gone.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think I read that there are something like almost 1,000 grizzlies in the state. Okay, fine. Davy Crockett kills 105 bears.
Which type?
That's
what I'm starting to think. Which type is he fighting babies?
Yeah,
because
killed
babies.
105 bear cubs. What a monster!
I mean, it would have made sense if he killed one at 3. Because if his mom was really irresponsible and gave him a cleaver, woo!
Now, here you go, kiddo. Have a shotgun. Have fun.
Ching, ching, ching.
Now, regardless, some enterprising theater artists saw potential in a new market: frontier theater.
Oh, no.
In 1831, actor James Hackett had grown a fairly solid career touring the country playing characters from American folklore like Rip Van Winkle. But audiences soon started to become tired of the act, and Hackett knew he had to come up with something new. So he published and advertised a playwriting contest. $300 to the playwright who could come up with the best comedy based on an American figure from history.
Well, it's good that Jim Carrey isn't at this time.
Yeah.
And if Jim Carrey, you're listening, thanks for listening.
Thank you. God, please come on the show. All right. The winner was playwright.
Like a glove.
Like a glove. The winner was playwright James Kirk Paulding, whose play The Lion of the West portrayed a very familiar character at the time, although not named directly for its inspiration.
This is starting to sound like The Wizard of Oz for some reason.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, the lion kind of gave it away.
This lion is a little bolder. It turns out that Paulding was a strong proponent of President Jackson's westward expansion plans, including the Indian Removal Act. And it is assumed because of this, Paulding had a strong distaste for Colonel Davy Crockett. Now, it depends on what stories you read, but Paulding also took offense to the reports of Crockett being hardly literate, speaking in Congress with his witty backwoods aphorisms and manners, and his habits of not conforming to standard dress appropriate to business in the Capitol building, but rather his folksy fur caps and buckskin clothing.
So he's just a sassy teenage girl.
I'll do what I want.
I do what I want. Hair flip.
Hair flip.
I swear, some people announce that stuff.
Yep. So this is what Paulding thinks of Crockett. He thinks he's going to Congress and being like, well, shoot, if you're going to pass that bill, I'll take you out behind the barn and take care of God's work. No, this didn't happen.
What type of God's work are we talking about?
The shotgun with the bar when he was 3.
Oh.
Many stories I read said Crockett probably spoke rather gruffly while in Congress, but dressed appropriately in a suit and tie. I mean, yeah, he was a candidate of the people, but that doesn't necessarily mean he was a caveman.
I was speaking gibberish.
I know, but you know
because he wasn't entirely literal.
Yeah. Anyway. Now, nonetheless, Paulding won the playwriting competition, and The Lion of the West was published and performed in New York City and was met with what we consider as a tremendous audience score. Okay?
Tremendous?
Like, they loved it. The audiences loved it. Now,
Okay.
I'm going to describe it here in a minute. And while there was a faction of people that enjoyed seeing these tales of the wild frontier, there was also a flip side to that coin. in the group of people who enjoyed seeing outdoorsy woodsmen portrayed as bumbling, unsophisticated idiots. Both types of audience members enjoyed the play and the foibles of its main character, named Nimrod Wildfire.
Okay. So, my one thought on this is that, like, red mustache dude from Looney Tunes.
Yosemite Sam!
Yosemite Sam.
Steps in a bear trap.
Ding, 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 ding. At the end of the war episode of Bugs Bunny.
The Revolutionary War, yeah.
Yep.
He's all bandaged up and everything. Oh my god.
Bandaged up, playing the flute. No, Piccolo.
Nimrod Wildfire.
I mean, if he's a Nimrod, he should be named.
I mean, honestly,
Nimrod.
that's like naming your character Dumbass Can't Shoot Straight.
It's like naming your, like, thrower Ugga Dugga.
Ugga Dugga.
Ugga Dugga. Me throw ball.
Now, in fact, there were plenty of rumors running around the East Coast, particularly in Washington, that before the play premiered, these rumors were saying that the play openly is going to be lampooning Crockett on stage. Now, in an effort to save face, playwright Paulding was published in magazines denying any connection between Nimrod Wildfire and Representative Crockett, because he was in Congress at the time. The playwright even basically had a note passed to Crockett through his connections in Congress avowing to such a claim. Oh, I'm not making fun of you. No, it's just a play.
Just like, hey, could you give this to Crockett? Hey, could you give this here? Pass it on.
Pass it on.
Pass it on.
When he received Paulding's statement, and he responded to Paulding in a letter, albeit with several misspellings, but this is what he quoted. I should not have taken the references to myself in exclusion of many who fill offices and who are as untaught as I am. The frankness of your letter convinces me that you were incapable of wounding the feelings of a stranger and unlettered man who had never injured you.
I'm not sure what to say about that.
I think he was just saying, like, okay, even if it is, I'm going to be the bigger man and say, no offense taken, okay? Nonetheless, as I said earlier, when the play premiered on April 25th, 1831 in New York, while many of the jokes at Crockett's expense were seen as completely asinine, the play was a monstrous hit.
Okay.
Okay? It I don't know how to compare it today. You know, there are those movies that we see that were like, okay, that was a cool movie, but that's not the image of the superhero that I thought it was.
Thunderbolts.
Stop it. We haven't even seen that yet.
But apparently it's this huge hit right now.
I know.
Guys, go watch the movie.
Yeah, go see it. Tell us.
I'm plugging them. I need money.
I need Disney to sponsor me. I already talked favorably about Disney at the beginning of this episode. Nothing wrong with it. Okay. Yeah, Disney, you have no reason not to sponsor me at this point.
I mean, there are a couple reasons.
Stop.
There's one,
oh boy,
and it's because of the location.
Oh, well. Yeah.
We're in Wyoming.
Yeah, it's a little tough.
I mean, the Minecraft movie already made fun of us.
And it was funny. Yeah.
I mean, it was funny, but ow, dude. I'm sorry, Jason. I hate you now. I have beef.
Jeez. Okay, now I'm going to get my ass kicked by Jason Momoa. Thank you. All right, so really popular play, premieres in New York. It's so popular that the play goes on tour all up and down the East Coast. And here's a quote from an article I read about the tour. This is my favorite part of this story. Ready? By December 1831, his tour, Hackett's tour, reached Washington, where Congressman Crockett himself took a front seat at the theater. Ready to see a play that's not at all about him.
Yeah.
When Hackett, costumed in buckskin, stepped onto the stage, he spotted Crockett and bowed to him. Crockett, in fancy theater-going clothes, not his buckskin cap or his buckskin clothes or his fur cap that everybody said he was in. No, he's going out for a night on the town in Washington, D.C. Crockett stood and returned the bow then acknowledged applause from the rest of the audience.
Talk about a cold shoulder.
It kind of was, but the audience all went, yes, you acknowledged him.
Cinema.
Yes.
Cinema.
Here's the rest of the quote. The play became the mainstay of Hackett's repertoire for more than 20 years. After Crockett's death.
That is just disappointing.
Play Nimrod Wildfire.
Nimrod Wildfire?
Mm-hmm.
What a bunch of bull.
Oh, and here's where we find out that James Hackett, was probably the first person to wear the fur cap with the raccoon tail on the back of it.
Oh.
Because in pictures of Davy Crockett when he was out, when people would take chronicles of him, he didn't have that. He might have had a cap on, but it wasn't that.
It's like the Vikings.
All of them had the horn helmet, right?
Yeah, they're all like hiccup from How the Twin Wagon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. An actual play titled Davy Crockett became popular in 1873, and it was a similar situation. An actor named Frank Mayo seized upon the popularity of stories from the American West, more akin to what we now know today as Westerns, and made his career for years playing Davy Crockett in a play named for its hero.
A condiment did that?
A condiment did that. Mm-hmm. His leading lady was Sonia Mustard. I'm just kidding. That's not true.
You better catch up, Dad.
Mm-hmm. However, while this play did its best to honor and heroize, make a hero out of Davy Crockett, it went to some pretty extreme lengths to do so. One of the most memorable scenes in the play was when Crockett welcomed a woman being pursued by wolves into his cabin and kept the wolves at bay by jamming his own arm into the braces on the cabin's main door. They didn't have a log. They didn't have any kind of a chair leg or a rifle or anything like that. It was his arm.
Let's get down to business.
And I guess as far as the play is concerned, the character of Davy Crockett stayed there all night with his arm in the door brace while the wolves tried to get in. And then by sunrise, they were like, I'm tired. We'll go home.
That story makes 100% sense.
Absolutely.
And how he wasn't just like, it hurts.
Or his arm didn't snap off.
No, like it snapped off, but like it's still wedged in.
I'm fine. It'll grow back. Now, Davy eventually got the girl by the end of the play, and both that story and the story of the wolves, total fabrications.
Do you marry this one-armed person?
Uh-huh. Now, by that point, though, it might not have mattered. Davy's legend, which was not necessarily aligned with his actual feats, was mainly set in American culture. Here's a longer quote that I found from an article. The real Davy Crockett may well have perished at the Alamo, but the legendary Davy Crockett was just beginning to live. The Crockett Almanac continued to grow in popularity. The almanacs interlaced backwoods tall tales with information on the phases of the moon and weather predictions. Cheaply produced and illustrated with rough woodcuts, they were aimed at a wide popular audience. Crockett emerged in the stories as an American Hercules, wading the Mississippi, steering an alligator up Niagara Falls, straddling a streak of lightning, wringing the tail of a comet, and kicking the sun loose from its frozen axis.
So he's basically just Florida Man.
He's Florida Man with a heart of gold?
No, he's Florida Man, but he's not in Florida.
Yeah.
He's in California.
Right. But I did hear that story about riding the streak of lightning. That's absolutely true.
It's like William Wallace.
He's 7 feet tall.
He can shoot lightning out his arse.
All right. Now, all this notwithstanding.
All right.
Okay. There was a musical that was attempted. There were the 1950s shows. He's been portrayed many, many times in film and television.
Finally, we're getting somewhere.
Okay, what do you think, though, is the purpose of telling stories on stage or TV or film about current figures from history?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's fine.
Because most of them just, like, celebrities, meh.
Okay.
Presidents, meh.
I would say the most recent one that, you didn't see, I haven't seen it either, was the Bob Dylan movie that came out last year. One that I really like is Ali, about Muhammad Ali. He was still alive when that movie came out in 2001. But it's like, when a figure is still alive and you're telling their life story, what's the point?
Because it's not from their point of view, and it's also not telling the truth, because it's kind of like how George Washington chopped down the cherry tree.
Oh my God.
He actually never chopped down a cherry tree.
Never
it
did.
It was probably a birch tree.
Now, okay, pardon my laughter, but you're right. Like, it's like, this is the main thing that everybody's getting wrong. Birch tree.
Well, like...
And that's okay.
I mean, Kanye West is one thing.
Whoa, okay.
I'm sorry, Kanye, if you're listening.
Not. Yeah, you can just go ahead and listen. All right. let me tell you this little anecdote to kind of round this whole thing up. In summer 2017, Fox News ran a headline, quote, "New York City play appears to depict assassination of Trump."
Oh, no.
Okay. All right.
There's going to be so many eyewitnesses.
Okay, but listen to this. That's summer 2017. This is the summer of his first year of his first term.
What?
Uh-huh. So there's a play in New York that's apparently depicting his assassination. This headline drew lots of conservative criticism and drove plenty of Trump supporters to New York City to protest.
Okay, I think I have an idea where this is going.
Okay, you might. Go ahead. You tell me what you think.
Ear, maybe?
Huh?
Ear, maybe?
The ear? No, that wasn't. No. It was the ear assassination, which, amazingly his ear grew back. I didn't know that they could do that. Somebody tell Evander Holyfield. We've already talked about boxing.
It happened in a day.
It was amazing.
Like,
oh,
dude.
I know what happened. They took that technology from the movie Face Off and grew an ear back, and that's why.
Oh, no,
Okay.
no, they
Anyway.
just Men in Blacked him, and
All
then
right,
they
all right.
surgically
Are you ready for this?
added it.
It wasn't until the end of the article that it was announced that the play that was the annual free Shakespeare in the Park production by the Public Theater of New York. It was their production of Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Okay. Do you know Julius Caesar at all?
A little bit.
Do you know what happens in Julius Caesar?
He gets betrayed?
Julius Caesar gets assassinated.
Yeah, that's big.
Okay, it's one of those interesting stories in Shakespeare. It's not the title of the play is not about the main character. The main character of it is Marcus Brutus, who is one of the senators who ends up killing Caesar and has incredible guilt about it. So it was set in modern times. Caesar was played by renowned actor Greg Henry, who we just watched the other night in Guardians of the Galaxy. He plays Peter Quill's grandpa.
Oh, that guy.
That guy. He's a good
love
actor.
him. I love him.
He's a good actor. But, as such, boasted Greg Henry's signature blonde hair, and he wore a blue suit and a large red tie. The Fox News article made mention that the Roman figurehead that was dispatched in Act 3, Scene 1, as happens every single time the play is performed, only this time was stabbed by many times by women and minorities. They had to make note of that.
Minorities?
Mm-hmm. That's the point. The Public Theater keeps its annual summer offering at the Delacorte Theater in Central Park free without any taxpayer money, but rather from corporate sponsorships. That year, it was noted that some sponsors pulled their funding in response to the media coverage, including Bank of America and Delta Airlines. Apparently, representatives from Delta saw the play and felt that the play was against the interests of Delta Airlines, while representatives from Bank of America could not claim that anyone from their organization had seen the play. But I think my point goes a little bit further into saying, like, I think there were some obvious connections you could make to current political figures in that. It's Julius Caesar. They kill the head of state every time that play is performed, and it's been the way it's gone for over 400 years. Regardless of what you think, regardless of how you feel, Trump is arguably one of the most famous people in the world.
I mean,
Okay.
he makes it that way.
He
so.
may not be a popular figure. He may be an incredibly popular figure, depending on who you ask.
Well, like, he's popular only because he makes himself known.
Okay. But, I mean, you have people who are really behind him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But then you also have people who are very vehemently against him.
That's also what I'm trying to like. I'm trying to avoid both of those so
Okay.
I don't offend anybody
Right.
and I don't get hate mail. Actually, just send it to my Gmail. I do not care. I will not read it.
But I think the point is, like, this was not a Davy Crockett. I mean, like I said, Davy Crockett was very unpopular in Congress for his stance on the Indian Removal Act, but it didn't matter because his legend was already really big and people thought something different of him.
Okay, the dots just connected.
See? So what I'm saying is, I think it's kind of interesting how we have this figure who, was incredibly popular and we're telling stories that aren't exactly truthful. And then we're not even telling a story about Trump, but they looked at it and went, hey, you made fun of him or you killed him. I can't believe you killed him.
It's kind of like reacting to a movie that you've already seen like 700 times. You killed him. I can't believe you killed
Actually,
him.
now that I think about it, I'm like, that's one of those instances where you look at some of those people and go, you're trying to kill Trump. You go, you've never read this play, have you?
It's like when you first watched the Lord of the Rings extended cuts.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, Boromir.
Yeah.
Couldn't even last 3 arrows, dude.
Yeah. But what do you think about that? I mean, would there be a point today to trying to turn a character that's already relatively popular and making them more so? In fact, not even telling their story truthfully, but just to a point where they're going to be popular.
Superman.
See, that's what I'm saying. Not a real character, but I think but you're right though. You're right though. Because there are people out there who have already seen the trailer for the new movie coming out this July. And they're like, that's not my Superman.
I mean, it is and it isn't, but we'll never know until it comes out.
Until it comes out. And then
if you still have criticisms, keep it to yourself. Superman, most Supermen are okay.
They're okay. Everyone's a different
Every
iteration
Batman
of the same
is
story.
terrible.
Oh!
Not everyone.
Oh!
I mean, the recent ones.
Oh! Oh! All right.
I'm sorry if I offended DC fans.
You're going to bed without dinner.
Wait, no!
Oh, you thought we were done? Oh, no, 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 no. After I turned off the microphone the first time, Ethan couldn't stop talking about this. So I'm going to give you a little bit more taste of what we had to say about Davy Crockett and the many times he was portrayed on stage. But no, I mean, really, like when you think about it, we're talking about the idea of stories being told about historic people. Like when we tell a story on stage, we're going, okay, we have some sort of a message or a theme or something we're trying to get across to the audience. But when that person is still alive, I mean, we can talk about Hamilton, one of the most popular plays in the world right now. And people are like, I'm finding that I love musical theater because of Hamilton. And there are people out there who are going, that's cool, but the history of it is really off.
It is really off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just any history about someone dead is usually off.
Right.
Because people make them either more or less important.
Right.
To society.
Okay. So what you're trying to say is that sometimes we take these figures out of history because we think that the message that we want them to embody is more important than the actual message of their lives.
Well, we want them to embody something because it's more relatable.
Aha! Okay. But also, like Disney said when he was creating his parks, something we can aspire to.
Every theme has specifics.
Mm-hmm.
Not every theme applies to everyone as well.
Ah, right.
So, whenever you're reading a book and you're trying to figure out like the theme of it and the moral of the story,
Mm-hmm.
You just gotta really take a step back and figure out, does this book apply to me?
Mm.
Those are usually the books that you want.
Okay. Okay, so you could go see a story about Davy Crockett and go, hey, that's well told, but I'm getting nothing from seeing a guy, skin a bear for his clothes.
I mean, yeah, we saw Leonardo DiCaprio do that. So.
Ew. Oscar bait. I ate liver. Okay, cool. He should have won that Oscar like 8 times over.
8 times?
Yeah, he had so many unfortunate calls.
Unfortunate.
Like, he had a great performance next to somebody's life career defining performance. Stuff like that. Okay. So sometimes the myth doesn't necessarily meet the man.
As you said, never meet your heroes. If you are alive during the time of your hero, then ask them first if they are okay with you writing about them. And ask them if they want to make it historical or not.
Right.
Do they want to make it accurate?
Right. So if I'm writing a thing about contemporary Davy Crockett and I'm in his time and I come to him and I say, I really want to present you as like the hero of the land. I mean, that's what he did. He said, yeah, my autobiography will sell like crazy. And he went on tour. Interesting stuff, Ethan.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense and all.
Yeah. You're still going to bed without supper.
Wait, not a second, Todd.
I will say this for Ethan, amidst all the wry humor, he's got a good idea about what might be true in history and what might have been told to us in an attempt to suggest an alternative view of history. I guess it's the same reason I can live with what's generally considered to be a lot of historical inaccuracies with the play Hamilton. I can live with it based on the last line, who lives, who dies, who tells your story. So, maybe our heroes, aren't the people we made them out to be, but we all need heroes. I'd like to thank Ethan for his contributions, but I'm going to sign off for now. This has been another episode of Euripides Eumenides, a theater history podcast. I've been your host, Aaron Odom. Another episode will be in your ears in a fortnight, and I'll see you at intermission.